Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening wherever you are. Welcome back to Red Hot Talk once again, and welcome. I see some messages already. Nice to see you all. And look at this side to the screen. You got some snow, and we have sun here in London. What about you, Rod?
Sun in Western-super-Mare. It's unusual. It's been in the paper, so it's quite a thing.
So rare that you got on paper.
Yeah, we've had TV crews and everything.
Wow. Well, to be honest, I mean, this year's weather has been a bit weird, to say the least. I think it's so wet and dull for the first 2 months, and looks like there may be a little bit of a change. But this week, I don't know about you, Rod. London is supposed to have some cold weather coming in the next few days.
Is it? Oh,
Yes.
I'm going away for a few days towards the end of March. Maybe it'll improve. But I'm not too worried about colder weather, to be honest.
Yeah.
We're a tough old bunch in the UK.
we
We're
are
used to it. We're used to it.
I'm just looking, Anthony. Herb seal and polar bear season has started. All right, okay. Northern Newfoundland, Labrador. Oh, okay.
I'm not seeing all these messages, Jimmy, so I don't know whether I can see this side towards the screen, but maybe my end's a bit slow.
Yeah, it will pop up. It will pop up in a minute.
Okay.
But anyway, we're gonna have some interesting talk today about Trinity lenses, and Rod has done some extensive research on Trinity lenses.
Did you say extensive or expensive?
I guess you will find out in a second.
Sorry, my microphone's a little far away. I'm just going to move it a bit closer.
So basically, we're gonna maybe talk a little bit about the history of Trinity lenses. Why are they so popular? And then we'll get on with the pricings of it, because when you told me about the prices for Trinity lenses through different brands and formats, it did shock me a little bit. Only because, I mean, like, I compare to what I used to pay them, like years ago, and compared to what they are now, is definitely, spoiler alert, way more than inflation's.
I don't think that's a spoiler alert. I think we all knew that where this is going.
So, just in a few words, maybe, and we all know that each brand, regardless of format, each brand makes their own Trinity lenses. When we say Trinity lenses, I'm referring to the constant 2.8 aperture pro build quality zoom lenses. So usually started with the ultra wide zoom, which we in a full frame equivalent focal length would be like 16 to 35, and then you got a standard zoom, which is like 24 to 70, and then you got the medium tele, which is the 70 to 200. These are the Trinity zoom lenses that I would say most enthusiast photographers and every pro, and I mean every pro, should have a set in the bag. And so, Rod, why are they so popular? Like, it's strange, like, you would have thought, people may specialize in something, get primes and things, but they always have a set of zooms.
I'm going to make a claim to history here.
Okay.
I think I'm right, that I think I may have invented that term Trinity lenses, because it's way back when. It's probably 10 years ago. I was working on N Photo magazine, and I was a bit fed up of all these people going on about constant aperture f2.8 professional lenses. You had to have a super wide zoom, a standard zoom, a 70 to 200, and I think I made up the notion of a holy trinity of lenses, because I don't think anyone ever said that before then. So I'm gonna claim that phrase. All right.
Right. You better put a trademark. You put a trademark there, then.
you can't patent a phrase, can you? But I thought I made that up.
Okay.
Maybe I read it somewhere and thought I made it up, but I think I did make that up. But anyway, yes, it's like, if you're a professional photographer, or this was the perception about professional photographers, they had to have these three lenses. The only professional lenses were constant aperture f2.8 zooms, and you had to have an ultra wide zoom, standard zoom, and a 70 to 200. So the holy trinity of lenses, or I think out of what's the word for it? I think the holy was dropped, so now it's just Trinity.
Trinity lenses.
Trinity lenses. Three.
Yes.
So yeah, that was and probably still is the perception that these are 3 lenses every professional needs to have.
Yep.
So given that, I know we've for a long time we've had this feeling that prices are going up and up and up and up. So I did some research. I actually did a post about it. I don't know whether you want the link or not, but I can read from it to find out just how much it would cost to equip different camera systems with these 3 Trinity lenses for each system.
Yeah.
And the results were very interesting and definitely quite depressing. So do you want me to start with the worst news of all, Jimmy? Shall I do that?
Right. In just a moment. So before we do that, let's do a little shout out to the photography show. So for those who are in the UK,
yes, of course, yeah.
The photography show is happening this weekend in Birmingham, NEC. So for those who have tickets already, and I will probably see you there. And Rod and I will be walking around the show. We'll do a little bit of coverage for the first couple of days, and I have some talks. I believe every single day here and there. So you will catch me somewhere. And if you do bump into us, remember to come and say hi to us. We are very friendly. We don't bite, so come over and say hi, and we can have a chat or two. Paul Genge is here. Paul, are you going to TPS? Usually you are the regulars, right?
Hope so. Hope to see you there.
Yeah.
Paul thinks Sony trio of lenses will be the most expensive, no doubt. Well,
okay,
maybe not.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Maybe not.
We'll
Maybe
see.
not. But anyway, yes, TPS is really cool, and not only you get to see like-minded people or some friends, but you also usually, if you are looking to buy new gear, they usually have some kind of like show exclusive. Cashback deals, just exclusive at the show for that 4 days, and usually if you come the last day, you may actually pick up last minute bargains, because some of the exhibitors, they don't want to take the stuff back, so they might actually flock it to you for extra discount.
And it is worth dropping around at the different retailer stands, because they all seem to negotiate some special deals with the manufacturers, and you can get some significant discounts on camera gear. Yeah. So it's worth having a little nose at the price lists on the stand. You might get a couple of surprises.
Yeah, absolutely. So remember to check it out. So TPS shout out is done. Let's go back to our Trinity talk. So before you start, let me give you some figures how much I pay for my Trinity lenses when I started as a pro. And so I think, man, I can't remember exact figure, but I remember if I convert, because I bought them in Hong Kong. I was still in Hong Kong at the time. So the Trinity lenses, I got the Canon 16 to 35 f2.8L Mark II, the 24 to 70 2.8L Mark II, and the 7200 IS 2.8 Mark II. So all the Mark II lenses at the time was brand new. All 3 of them, and I believe I paid just under £2,800 conversion, because I paid in Hong Kong dollars. Well, in Hong Kong there's no VAT, so well, 2,800 is what I paid for the 3 lenses.
I think I can tell you, not making any of us feel any better, because I think those days are gone.
Oh yeah. You can't even pay half a lens now, right?
Well, if you're into Canon, that's a lens cap, isn't it? Or a couple. Sorry, Canon. Sorry.
Yeah. Okay.
Lens hood, I meant lens hood.
So
right, okay.
Hit me, Rod.
Right. Okay. So first of all, what I did was I just took 2 retailers. I chose B&H in the States because they're pretty representative, and Wex in the UK for the same reason. I picked as close as I could comparable lenses for each camera mount, and I quoted the full price, not any special deals that happen to be on at that moment, because they can come and go quite quickly. So I looked at Nikon Z, I looked at Canon RF, and I looked at Sony FE.
Yep.
And the thing that surprised me were how close the totals were for all three.
Right.
So I'll give you the figures. So for Nikon Z, my total in the US was $8,091.
What?
I hope you're all sitting down. Sorry, I should have warned you. It's going to be big.
Oh.
And in the UK, it's quite close. It's 7,957. So the prices may have gone up down a little bit. I did this a week ago, so it may have changed. But that's where we are with Nikon Z. Okay.
Yep.
Canon, it came up as $7,797 in the US, 7,897 in the UK. So just a little under 8,000, but closer than I was expecting. It's almost as if these makers work it out between them. Who knows? Sony, I got to 8,244 in the UK, a couple of hundred more than the others, but only 7,099 in the States. So I think Sony at the time, and probably now, is rather cheaper in the US. So if you're in the States, it's a good brand. It's a good brand to be into.
No wonder they're more popular in the States.
I don't know. I mean, obviously, things can change because you've got the uncertain situation over tariffs, and you've got different tax levels in different states. But what struck me most of all were how close these figures were, and how big they were.
Okay, that's interesting. So these are all, of course, all the full frame Trinity. Did you do some research on the APS-C and also maybe Micro Four Third as well?
I did. So I just picked two other systems. So I looked at Fujifilm, Fujifilm X, and I picked 3 professional red badge lenses from that range, all constant f2.8 zooms. That came at $5,097 and $4,097 in the UK.
Oh, okay.
So
right.
3,000 cheaper. So that interested me because I've long thought that with the Fujifilm X system and the Pro lens, it's just like it's APS-C, but everything's just as big. But it's not as expensive. So that's interesting. Okay. And I also looked at OM system, and just to reiterate, this was full list prices, not any special deals or discounts or cashback in the UK, which can change things. I mean, it's always worth checking with B&H and Wex at any one time to see if they've got any deals going, because they probably have. But the OM total was 4,597 in the UK. Sorry, in the US. That's $4,597. In the UK, a lot cheaper, £3,447.
So a grand cheaper than Fuji.
$500 cheaper in the States, about £1,000 cheaper in the UK.
Wow.
But of course, it will change according to any deals or offers going on. But just for consistency, I went for what the retailers said was the normal or the standard price.
Wow, that certainly shocked me a little bit, because even Micro Four Third Trinity lenses still cost more than what I paid for full frame years ago.
But you can't make these comparisons.
No, of course, the inflations and all sorts.
Compare it with another. No.
But like, for what I pay, let's round it up to £3,000 for what I pay for the Trinity lenses. Even if you add the 20% VAT on top, which makes it to £3,600, right? And
how long ago was this?
2005, so 20 years ago, 21 years ago. Yes,
it's ancient history. Ancient history, dodging the dinosaurs when you bought those.
They are still great lenses, though.
Well, this is the other thing I noticed. I don't have the exact figures for you. But the mirrorless Trinity lenses are a lot more expensive to buy than the DSLR Trinity lenses. Now, I know that all of the makers will say, well, of course they are, they're much better lenses. But even so, the switch from DSLR to mirrorless came with its own leap in cost. basically.
Yes. But then one thing I could very quickly say is that, back in the DSLR days, we didn't use lens profile to correct distortions. So most of the lenses, if great lenses or good lenses tends to be well corrected in terms of distortion. They may not be as sharp, but you don't have to deal with all these curvatures and the edges and stuff like that.
That is a very interesting point, that in DSLR days, lenses did have to be optically corrected as far as possible, whereas in this era, a lot of makers are relying on digital corrections. But I wonder if that's more at the consumer end of the market, perhaps not so much at the pro end. I don't know. I haven't used enough professional mirrorless lenses to be able to say.
Yeah, but it would not. But it wouldn't surprise me. Even prime lenses, I've tested a few. I mean, they all have some degree of distortion. May not be bad, but then they still rely on lens profile to correct quite a lot of stuff.
It's quite hard to understand why.
Yeah,
because prime lens shouldn't be that difficult to make. There are all sorts of funny things go on with lenses I don't quite understand. Like, I have a Canon RF 35 f1.8 that retracts when the camera's switched off. I mean, it's not a lot. It's probably about 2 millimeters.
Yeah.
But before you can use it, put it on the camera, switch camera on. Little internal barrel pops out about 2 millimeters. What's that all about? Why? Why?
Just make it a little 2 millimeter longer, and you don't have to see that.
I don't understand that at all. It's maybe they're unparking some focus groups or
but surely you could make it happen internal just by making it ever so slightly longer, the lens barrel, and that's it. Hide it.
Exactly. What the heck? What the heck?
Oh, geez.
So yeah, I think although I'm willing to believe that mirrorless lenses are actually quite a lot better optically, they do come with some unexpected annoyances as well.
Yeah.
The other thing I can't get out of my head is recently Nikon launched a version 2 of its Nikon Z70-200.
Yep.
I thought mirrorless lenses were supposed to be smaller.
They actually gone the other way, right? They actually gone bigger.
Yeah, why? I don't know why.
Yeah.
And they can't use the excuse that, oh well, it's a bigger flange distance, and so we had to have a little bit of spacing. These are new lenses. That shouldn't be happening. So
no, you're designed for it, right? You're designed for the flange distance, which is beyond me.
You would think so. Think so.
So, but that's interesting as well, because obviously, as you can see from the last 5 years or so, as how we see that now, 2.8 is no longer the limit for zoom lenses. You're starting to see brighter zoom lenses. In Canons and Sony, for instance, they now have f2, zoom lenses. There's also rumor, like Canon may be developing 1.8, zoom lenses for full frame. And I don't know how big would be, because the f2 lens is already very big and heavy.
I know.
It's ridiculous. And
it's insane.
Yeah, so I don't know whether that would be the new standard for Trinity lenses, whether f2.8 is no longer, the professional grey kind of Trinity. That will be reserved to maybe the consumer, because now consumer do have 2.8 lenses now, a lot cheaper.
Yeah.
And so the f2 may become the new Trinity, if not the 1.8. But to be frank, as a pro myself, if I have to lug around, all day, 3 Trinity lenses, each of these maybe f2, maybe cool, f2 aperture, but each of these may be about 1.5 kilo in weight. I don't think I'll be bothered taking them out at all, because they'll be so damn heavy. I don't think it's feasible.
I think this is a point I think that is often overlooked. If you get a big lens, either because it has a very long zoom range, like a super zoom lens, or because it has a very wide maximum aperture, what you're committing to is always having a big heavy lens with a feature that you don't use all the time. You're always carrying the weight, but you're not always using the advantage it offers you.
Yep.
So, if most of your shots are done at f4, 5.6 or f8, you're carrying around a big heavy lens for nothing. Just so that you can now and again shoot at f2. So it's something to think about. something to think about, I think.
Absolutely. So I'm not sure how. I mean, because I already see a lot of comments been popping up and discussing about what we just said. One of them is actually interesting as well because we haven't looked into third-party Trinity lenses. Obviously, like the likes of Tamron and Sigma, both of them do have their own version of Trinity lenses that will mount on basically any brand. So but I would say, you know, like without any calculation looking up, I would say they're probably about 20% cheaper than the
I'd say rather more than that. I don't have a lot of experience with the Sigma f2.8s, but I've used some of the Tamrons and they're extremely good.
Yeah,
they're good enough that I would think, why would I pay twice as much?
Actually, that's true because the Tamron 24-7 2.8, I think is quite a bit less than I think about £600, £700 roughly. And if you go for any Canon L mount, Canon L lens or Sony G Masters and Nikon, I think they are over $2,000. I think.
A little over is an understatement. So the Nikon Z24-70 f2.8 S2 is just under $2,800, £2,600. The Canon RF 24-70 2.8 is $2,600, £2,500. The Sony actually is much more affordable. Sony FE 24-70 Mark II G Master, $2,448, £2,100.
Still over $2,000.
yeah. Well, it's cheaper to have a Sony if you're getting a 24-70. But just digressing very slightly, something else I noticed is that different brands are more attractive in different territories. So in the UK, Panasonic, which I didn't do, so it doesn't really have quite a Trinity set as far as I can see. In the UK, Panasonic cameras and gear are quite affordable. In the US, they're a lot more expensive.
Yes.
If you're a Sony user, you're better off in the UK than in the US. But with Canon UK prices are typically higher than in the States. You know, it's not even a fair dollar to pound conversion. You pay that a little bit more in the UK for Canon gear. So I think it's probably something to do with the importers and their policy and their pricing structure. But it's also true for system that you're better off in the UK than in the States. It's not a huge difference, but the gear is cheaper over here.
Yeah. I mean, I think Paul Gange actually mentioned something about grey import earlier. You know, I think that if you buy any sort of camera gear in general, I mean, I'm talking about through any Asian countries, whether it's going to be from China, Hong Kong, or even directly from Japan, you're going to save a lot. I think there are a couple of reasons there. First of all, a lot of these countries don't have VATs or any sort of sales tax on top of the price. So, and they just have base price. And then you got the favor against your currency as well, you know. And at the moment, Japanese yen is very low. So if you're using US dollars or British pound and convert them into Japanese yen, you find yourself saving quite significant amount of money. And you know, but that is talking about the non-official route to getting camera gear and bringing it back.
That's controversial. Yes. I had a colleague who used to do that, and we agreed to differ on that particular topic. But yeah, you can get grey imports that are cheaper. But I think as a kind of moral argument against that, and there's also what happens if you have to make a warranty claim, or also I think. It's always a grey area, no pun intended, when you're importing from another territory, where the HM Customs decides to charge you VAT on imports, which is quite likely. But talking of VAT, by the way, it is worth registering for VAT, even if you're below the threshold, because you can offset quite a lot of the cost of stuff. You know, 20% VAT on camera gear. It's quite a lot of money.
It is. It is.
So it's kind of worth doing. And VAT, unless it's changed since I did it, is not as difficult to administer as income tax. So it's worth thinking about it. If you're at or near the VAT threshold, it's a bit more admin, but it can save you some money in the UK.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's interesting. But you know, so, I don't know how everybody feel about prices in general. Are you feeling as shocked as I am? You know, when Rod told you about this $8,000 and pounds for most of the full frame Trinity lenses. Yeah,
8,000 is a pretty close estimate for all three of those systems in both territories. Yeah.
And this is basically just going back to what we talked about many times in previous talks, is that you know, how much camera gear actually costs you these days, just to start it off, you know. And if you're enthusiastic about photography, let's say if you're upgrading from DSLRs and moving into mirrorless, you want to get it equivalent. Let's say you already have some Trinity lenses, but you want to go into mirrorless. Yes, you can actually. Most manufacturers, especially Canon and Nikon, you can get an adapter, use your old DSLR lenses onto the mirrorless body, but they you lose quite a lot of performances. For instance, AF speed, and some of the sharpness you gain from the newer lenses. For instance, especially most of the newer mirrorless bodies do have higher megapixel counts, so a lot of the older lenses may not look as sharp as you would like compared to what you had before, simply because, you know, the camera has advanced quite a bit. So when you do that, and you will find out, you know, first of all, you have to sell your old equipment and trying to fund your next purchase. You probably won't get a lot from it, and then you look at all these inflated prices, you know. It's quite deflating. It's quite depressing.
Deflated by inflated prices. Yes, I know. I see what he did there. It is. I think perhaps when this idea of Trinity lenses first came around, that every pro should have all three.
Yeah.
They didn't cost then what they do now.
Yeah.
I think these days you're probably going to be rather more selective about the lenses you buy.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't think there are many people who are going to buy all three. But what I did notice is that some of the worst culprits are these 70 to 200 f2.8s. Yep. Which I suppose you'd expect because they've got the most metal and glass in them. Yep. But they're all up towards the 3,000 mark, which it seems quite a lot of money, doesn't it?
You know, but I think, like, you know, if you're upgrading, you choosing to upgrade or your old DSLR lenses to the mirrorless version, I think by the time you sell all the Trinity DSLR versions, you probably just about enough, maybe a little bit less. You have to top out just to get one lens in the mirrorless world. Very possible.
Yeah, but I think it will lead people to think more about third-party lenses, and also now that most professionals are kind of hybrid shooters, who need to be, there's probably going to be more attention put onto lenses that are good for video. Maybe a selection of primes and just a couple of zooms. I think photographers are going to be a bit more selective about what lenses they choose, partly because of the price, heaven knows, partly because of the price, but also because what we tend to shoot and film these days is quite niche and quite specialized, and you need particular bits of kit. You can't just buy three lenses and do everything.
Yep.
You have to look at it a bit differently now, I think.
Just look at Chris comment here, and price is one reason that Micro Four Third is so attractive without sacrificing quality. I personally think is right. You know, we talked about it before. Unless you're really fixated to how full frame images look, but you know, look is another thing, depth of field is another thing, or bokeh, whatever you want to call it. I think as a general photographer who just want to capture daily lives, and I think Micro Four Third is a very good platform, very attractive platform. Not just about price, but in the overall usabilities and form factor is quite good. I'm not suggesting full frame is bad by any means, but I'm just purely looking at, you know, unless you are a demanding user. I mean, I don't see how a full frame would better off all the things that you may be capturing as a, let's say, a day-to-day mum or dad, you know, just in that scenarios. You'll be just carrying a heavier body, going to a birthday party, snapping some photos.
It depends on the quality you need, because I think you would have to concede that a full frame camera will give you visibly better quality than micro four thirds if you zoom in far enough and if you look closely enough. But it depends on whether you need that level of quality for the work you're doing, or whether MFT already provides more than enough resolution and image quality for what you need your images for.
Yeah. And I think for most modern photographer, modern users now, they are so used to consuming images through the online through the devices, mostly mobile, because of Facebook, the popularity of Facebook. And I think I would say any cameras on the market now are overkill. You know, including the smartphone themselves. You don't need 48 megapixel resolution for a smartphone screen.
No, resolutions become almost irrelevant.
Yeah.
There are fewer and fewer circumstances where resolution remains important. It will be if you've got a very prestigious client offering you a very great deal of money to do a commercial shoot, because they'll tell you what they want and you'll have to provide it. But for anyone who's a solo shooter or works alone or works directly for clients, I think increasingly the resolution is becoming not irrelevant but less important. Because I know we've talked about it before, but I'm sure you've never had a client come to you and say, you know, this is only 20 megapixels. I wish it's 25. You know, you don't tend to have that kind of conversation.
No, not very often. But there were a couple of clients who asked, and then oh, you're not using the Sony 50 megapixel sensor, you know, that kind of thing.
Yeah. I thought you'd have a Sony A1.
Yeah.
Where is it? Why have you brought this? No, well, you definitely will get that with some clients, and even those who aren't commercial clients, people will have an idea. I think what you can have is that the kit they expect to turn up with is in proportion to what they're paying for the job, probably. And you always get somebody who thinks it ought to be this, or this.
Yeah. My answers usually, you know, if you want 50 megapixel, I'm gladly to charge you more than double for that.
Yes, I charge by the megapixel. How much do you have to pay?
It used more energy for me to process your file, so it all adds up.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's but yeah, the costs did surprise me. I think I was surprised that the three big full frame makers were all so close. Yeah. But then I thought, why should I be surprised? Because anybody involved in marketing is going to make sure that their price point is comparable to rivals. I can't see Canon, Nikon, and Sony going into a price war over anything. They're just going to stay at the same level, I think. I was surprised that Fujifilm was quite a lot cheaper. I think most people who shoot full frame would take some convincing to swap to APS-C. But if you're just choosing a system from scratch, there is a considerable price difference. And you know, if you get these Fujifilm Red Badge Pro lenses and something like an XH2 or an XT5, you've got pretty substantial image quality. So
and
got 40
much
megapixels. Well, this is the thing. It's if we're going to talk about money, you can't ignore that. It's a considerably cheaper option.
No. Although having said that, I mean, I don't think Fuji sells as many digital cameras or lenses compared to you know, Sony, Canon, and Nikon. You know, they sell more Instax than the actual digital cameras.
I think I suppose what I have noticed above all else is that it makes more getting professional quality lenses makes more difference than the format of the camera. So if you're going to equate things in price terms, I think you're better off with pro lenses on a crop sensor than you are with consumer
Absolutely.
lenses on full frame.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I many of you know that I also use Fujifilm at the moment as well. I mean, I do have a couple of the primes. What surprised me as well, when you look at the price of prime lenses, for instance, the new one, the 33 1.4 linear motor prime lens on the Fujifilm catalog is I think, if I remember correctly, about £700-800.
Yeah,
And then the equivalent in Micro Four Third world would be the 25 1.2 Pro, and that's selling over £1,000 in the UK. So it's actually more expensive than the Fujifilm, but
it's slightly faster though, isn't it?
It is slightly faster. But I have to say the OM system lens is quite substantially better in terms of build quality compared to the Fujifilm lens. While the Fujifilm optical quality is quite good, but it's still fully metal and weather sealed. But when you put it in side by side next to each other, I do find that the pro grey lenses from OM system feels quite a bit heavier, quite a bit more solid. And in terms of features, the OM system does have the manual clutch as well, while the X-mount lens from Fuji doesn't have that, but it does have an aperture ring. So give or take. But I think generally I do find that the OM system lenses are better built by quite a margin.
Yeah. I think it's a question of preference. You see, I'd rather have the aperture ring, but it's all about. It depends on the camera. If I had a Fujifilm X-T5. With the shutter speed dial, I'd rather have the aperture ring. If I had, say, an XH2 which doesn't have that, then it probably doesn't matter so much. But that does come down to preference. But I would agree with Angela Playful One's comment. I think I addressed this earlier, that the Fujifilm 2.8 zooms are big. They're as big as full frame. They are, but they're cheaper.
Quite a bit.
Big or not. They're a lot cheaper.
So Angela Playful One, you probably miss the pricing that Rod found out. So what's the difference in price to get the Trinity between Fuji and full frame?
$3,000 in
That's
US dollars or UK pounds.
That's a lot.
So
that's a body. That's a body.
It's been a source of irritation to me for a while that the Fujifilm f2.8 lenses are so big, and I've always thought, well, they're that big, why not go full frame? It's only when you look at the prices and the cost that you think, that's why it's attractive. You're not getting a smaller system, but you are $3,000 or £3,000 better off.
Yeah. And there's another comment here. I think I just picked it up. Zoom lenses aren't internal zooms are no good in my view, of course. What's your take? What's your take on that? The reason I say that because a lot, or most of the 24 to 70 are not internal zoom. They do have the extended barrels. If you look at most of them.
Well, the thing is, we might not like extending zooms, but the thing is, you don't get a choice. Somebody will have to correct me. I can't think of a 24 to 70 with an internal zoom. There are a couple of 70 to 200s with an internal zoom. I don't think you get any ultra wide zooms that are internal. So it's not that we have a choice really. Now and again, it is. So the new Nikon 70 to 200 2.8 does have an internal zoom.
Yep.
But then it is about 11 feet long already. So maybe it's not. I'm exaggerating, but you know what I mean. The Canon 70 to 200 has an extending barrel, but when it's at 70 millimeters, it's quite a compact lens. So, if you want an internal zoom, you're probably going to have a big lens.
Yeah, I mean, this is the Tamron Nikon. It does have an extended. It does have a extended thing as well.
You can't. It's what it is.
Yeah.
It's
actually all right lens. It's quite cheap compared to the brand new VR Nikon lens, and this is like only about $1,000, maybe it's just slightly less than $1,000. And it's okay quality.
We've got a comment here about the Canon 24 to 105 2.8 is internal. We need to see a picture of that lens. It's not a small lens. So, it's if you want to zoom with an internal zoom, it's probably going to be a bigger lens, just to accommodate the full range of focal length. So it's not like it comes without a cost.
Yeah. I mean,
I would rather all lenses had internal zooms.
Yeah.
But I just don't think it's that practical.
No, I mean, I think it's a lot to do with also the portability side of it. So I mean, in terms of design, I mean, they can all make it internal zoom. They just have to have housing, like you said, long enough to cover, you know, all the movement. I mean, all the zoom that I've seen, they all have some kind of well, not this one actually. No, this is one of them. This is the Micro Four Third version, 12 to 40, and yeah, it's the same thing. You know, but you know, when you go all the way down, of course, it's quite a compact lens. You know, I think that's another kind of take away from why do they have collapsible barrels. Anything that's internal becomes quite a bit larger by default. I don't have any other internal zooms here.
It's been pointed out to me that the Nikon Z24-70 f2.8 S2 does have an internal zoom. Okay. So you can get a 24-70 with an internal zoom, but if we check the length of that lens though, not that it means much when it's viewed in isolation, but it's 150 millimeters long, which is quite long for a 24-70.
Yeah.
So you know, you've got to ask yourself, would you rather have an internal zoom that's that long, or a conventional retracting barrel with a lens that's smaller when you put it away or put it in your bag? I don't know.
Yeah.
It would be lovely if all zooms were internal, but I've got a feeling that you know that comes at a cost.
One cool thing about the one that I had before, the 24-70 Canon, the 2.8L lens that I mentioned earlier. One cool thing about that particular lens was the design. Was that when you mount the lens hood on the lens, when you extend the barrel moves inside the lens hood, so it's always covered.
Yeah,
and it's actually a pretty cool design, I think. And when they changed to the Mark III version, they changed all that, so they have the traditional way of zoom action. So like you mount the lens hood, and it basically mounted to the front. It goes with the front of the lens.
Yeah.
But the Canon one that I had, the actual hood itself cover the inner bit. So even you've moved in and out, it doesn't change anything. I don't know why they scrapped that design, which is kind of beyond me.
The thing that bothers me about extending barrels is I can't resist the temptation just to go to full zoom and then just wobble the end, see how much play there is. And I get nervous. I get nervous when I feel some play. But extending barrels, I think usually you can't get around that, but occasionally you will get internal zooms, but don't expect those to be small.
Yeah, but that means you know, like if you do that, all the lenses become quite a bit longer, and then you have to have bigger camera bag to carry them around as well. I mean, give or take, you know, there's no right or wrong there, but in general terms, I would say yes. I'll probably agree that the internal zoom was definitely better for weather sealing. You know, there's no gaps, there's no movement there.
That's true.
That's physics. You know, like you move in and out, you tend to have that suctions. You know, like when you do the action,
sucking all the dust in.
You almost feel that it's sucking everything in when you do that.
That is quite true.
Yeah,
that is quite true. I've seen a couple of makers remark as well that internal zooms are good for gimbal use because they won't require rebalancing. I'm not quite convinced about that because I think they're going to be moving some pretty heavy optical groups around when you zoom. Yeah. So I've got a feeling the weight will shift anyway. But it's interesting. If anyone's ever thought of putting a 70 to 200 f2.8 on a gimbal, good luck to you. Let's see how that goes.
Well, I mean, it's not just. I don't think there are any gimbals that will allow you to mount that kind of length of lens on it.
No, there wouldn't be room, would there? You wouldn't be able to get
even the largest gimbal. I have a couple a big one here, and I don't think it actually have the room to for the 70 to 200. You can do about 24-70, with a big body behind it. But I think 7200 just a bit too long for that. So I don't think that is feasible at all. I mean, if you start to mount anything that big, you have to go for something really massive.
Do you do this more than I do, Jimmy? Do you think people use zooms on a gimbal, or do you think they would use they wouldn't just use a prime and get this and choose their position?
I mean, I've done that before. But I mean, by only using Micro Four Third zoom lenses, but I would think that the full frame would work exactly the same way. You know, if you just have to use a slightly larger gimbal. So what I do why would I use a zoom lens on a gimbal when I do filming is that you can do pull focus and do this dolly zoom, because you once you put the on a gimbal, yes.
How many hands have you got? I couldn't do that.
All you need just the follow focus module, and then you attach to the zoom ring. You attach to the zoom ring, and you set it to autofocus, continue focus. So let the focus do its work, and then you just basically walk in and out, and then and just pull the zoom while the zoom, and it works.
Can't believe you know all the tricks, Jimmy. You've got all the gear. I can't believe it.
Well, it works. It works quite well as well. So, I mean, if you really want it to be really stable, I mean, you sit on a some sort of like chair with wheels and let someone push you, that will be really stable.
Yeah, that'll be me in a few years. That'll be my standard photography mode.
But yeah, I mean, there are all sorts of tricks if you can do. But I mean, I think zoom lenses are quite useful, and gimbal in terms of filming, although it's not very common, but you do starting to see a lot of people do that, and especially like what we mentioned earlier, there are now starting to have some faster zoom lenses, like the f2 zoom lenses. So on a full frame, it does give you a little bit of a subject isolation, so you can get some effect out of it, you know, and. Yeah, so there are some uses.
But you're probably going to be on a tripod though, not a gimbal, I would have thought.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, once you mount those big heavy lenses on it, including a full frame body, you physically you won't be able to hold a gimbal for longer than 5 minutes without a rest.
And you wouldn't be able to put a lens with a tripod on a gimbal, would you? Because it just wouldn't go. You'd always have to use the camera tripod socket on a gimbal, I would have thought.
Yeah.
But I don't even know how he got into such a weird use case scenario. But anyway, internal zooms, nice in principle, but they're not common. No. They're not cheap, and they're not necessarily going to be small.
So now we have found, well, at least confirmed one thing, is that photography is bloody expensive.
Yeah. You know, and full frame versus crop sensor, it's not necessarily about the size of the gear, but it's certainly about the cost.
So, I mean, I know we're sidetracking a little bit, you know, but I did see some people mention about Sigma and Tamron earlier. And that kind of brings into discussion of, you know, maybe something quite recent about, you know, the Nikon is... one second. So... no, Rod, can you carry on? I got a parcel delivery. 1 second.
Oh yeah, good old parcel delivery. It's become a kind of way of life now, isn't it? Front doorbell every 10 minutes. Another Amazon driver. Wonder what it is. Perhaps it's a camera. I was just about to go and look up actually the price of a Tamron 70 to 180 f2.8. Because what I didn't do when I did my cost comparison was check how much it would cost to get a kind of trinity of lenses from a third-party maker. So you can't really do that with Canon, of course, but you can with Sony and Nikon. And I know it's not a direct comparison because it's slightly different focal range, but the Tamron 70 to 180 f2.8 is just over $1,000 in the US. It's less than half the price of the Sony equivalent, or if you get it in Z-mount, less than half the price of the Nikon one. Now, it's probably not giving me the same quality, certainly not the same build quality perhaps, or the same controls on the lens, or maybe in the same weatherproofing. But if you are buying into a full frame system, and you simply want the versatility of a constant f2.8 zoom, it is a heck of a lot cheaper to go with a maker like Tamron than it's to go with the camera maker's own brand. It's a big difference. I don't know whether you're perhaps away from your desk, Jimmy, when I checked, but the Tamron 70 to 180.
Yep.
I know it's not a direct comparison with the Canon, Sony, and Nikon ones, but it's just over $1,000 a B&H. So it's at or around 1/3 the price. So that is quite a big difference. It's not professional lens in the same way.
No,
but the price difference is, you can't ignore it.
I mean, it's certainly interesting for argument's sake. You know, like we kind of discussed it a couple of times about Viltrox and Nikon court case that's currently happening in China. So we will soon find out. On? It is apparently, and I mean, third party exists for a reason. They're supposed to provide and more affordable alternatives to their own branded lenses. But you can see what Nikon is doing for the past couple of years. They're starting to develop a cheaper line of lenses, the non-S line, so to speak. You know, like the one that I just showed you. You know, this is branded as Nikon lens, but it's actually a Tamron lens, 70 to 150.
Good old Tamron.
180, and then and they also have a bunch of new 1.4 prime lenses, the 35-50 non-S lenses. So they are relatively affordable, like £600 in the UK. They are basically almost the same price as some of the third-party lenses out there, including Sigma themselves. So what is Nikon doing? And is that going to be a new trend that even like Canon, maybe Sony are going to continue starting to think about by providing an affordable options, and hopefully one day they can almost eliminate any sort of third-party making?
I think what's happening is that the quality of these lens ranges is evolving constantly. So you might also say that the second generation Nikon Z lenses and Canon lenses and Sony G Master lenses have now got better than users need them to be. At the same time, their second division lenses, like the Nikon Tamron lenses and the Tamron third-party lenses you can get for Sony cameras, are getting so good that they're quite close to what a professional photographer would expect. But it depends on where you're shooting and the circumstances. If you're a press photographer or a sports photographer, you need lenses that take a bit of punishment, which is why you pay the big bucks for pro lenses. But if all your arteries is can't get the words out today. If all your arteries versatility, fast apertures, and zoom range, then I think the kind of second division lenses are now almost as good as the first division lenses were a few years ago. So I think they're going to eat into the sales a little bit. Sony's regular G lenses are now very good. You might think, do I need to pay the extra for G Masters? I don't know.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's without a doubt. I mean, the same thing can be said about Sigma's art lenses. I mean, they are very, very good, a lot of them. And you know, and some of them in my eyes, they are better, if not like a similar sort of level as some of the pro grade level of optics that native lenses have. It's very interesting, you know, now to see how the whole third party saga gonna play out, you know, more specific about China. And for those who want a little bit update about the Viltrox cases, apparently that this case is only about China region, so that is why Viltrox is still continuing selling Z-mount lenses outside of China. And I did dig up a little bit more update the other day, and the infringements, or so-called copyright infringements and patent infringements, is to do with the Z-mount design and the electronic communication to the apertures and things like that. And I think even Viltrox, I think Viltrox themselves even said that before, I don't know when they quoted, they have reverse engineered the Nikon lenses for that.
This is my thought.
Yeah.
I would imagine it's not a mechanical thing, because that would have been an obvious thing to get straight right from the start. I imagine that there's some argument over how the electronics are interfacing with the camera. So the Viltrox has figured out how to do stuff that Nikon didn't really want them to be able to do with the camera lens communications.
Yeah. Well, like I said, we're gonna have to see how this play out. And I mean, I think in my eyes, they're gonna do what Sigma and Tamron did years ago. And because Sigma did run into a similar sort of trouble with Nikon at one point. And so they're gonna be some kind of settlement. They're gonna be some licensing fee going, some sort of royalties, maybe some pro rata. They have to go back to how much they have sold already, and maybe work out some compensation back to Nikon. And everybody's happy, but ultimately that would mean one thing is that Viltrox lenses won't be as cheap as now. Maybe a little bit of a bump in price, maybe 5% or so, just to cover the royalty.
It is interesting to note how these different camera makers, their attitude towards third-party lenses, because I think that could affect people's decisions about which system to buy into. So if you're just going to buy Trinity lenses from the camera maker, it doesn't make a lot of difference. But if you're looking at third-party lenses, then Canon RF is problematic, because really you're restricted to Canon lenses, and they made you either pay the Canon RF L lenses are expensive, and the consumer lenses aren't really any substitute. They're right at the other end of the scale for specification.
No.
I think with Nikon, we'll have to wait and see what happens with the Viltrox case. Nikon, I think, is a little more open, especially if they're happy to enter into a deal with Tamron.
Yeah. Well, ultimately, I think that they don't want the third part. They don't want to kill off the third market. I mean, I think we were just joking a little bit. I mean, it does help them to sell more cameras eventually. Like we discussed. I mean, that will be acting as a gateway for the system. And many people may want to buy some Viltrox lenses just to try it out first, and before they commit to this heavy sum of money, to buy the best of the best from their own brand. You could see it that way. But another good thing is if they do enter with an agreement somehow, becoming official. What could that mean is that also Viltrox lenses become official, and that means their firmware should be a lot better. They will have to talk to Nikon and get the latest spec, and then make sure that the lenses will be compatible fully with all their cameras. And at the moment, I do know that a lot of Viltrox lenses will work with one model but not another. There's always some conflicting issues there, so Viltrox will always have to kind of do a retrospective fix for some of these lenses, make them compatible with some of the bodies. So if they become official, that shouldn't be the case. That should be fixed, because they would get the official stuff.
I think there's a difference between being allowed to make lenses and being an official partner. I can't see Viltrox becoming an official partner to Nikon, really, not in the same way that Tamron has. But I think Nikon has to be a little bit careful, because it's kind of like a minority brand. You need all the support you can get. I think. This is a question. If you're just starting out, which of the full frame brands do you go for? I think you've got to look not just at the cameras and the pro lenses, but the whole lens policy. Because if you go for Canon, you are going to have to go with Canon lenses ultimately. If you go with Nikon, it's a bit more open. I think if you're worried at all about lens compatibility and choice, it's got to be Sony. You may not be a Sony fan. But that's the most open. That's the most open platform for lenses. Well,
the new one will also be the L mount as well. I mean, although there are limited amount of bodies at the moment, the L mounts. Well, first of all, Sigma does have an extensive catalog of L mount lenses, because it's Sigma. They just put the mounts in it, and then and then you got a few from Panasonic. And if you don't mind spending the money, you do get some really nice Leica one as well. But they are just costing an arm and leg. But having said that, I think if you look at the Trinity lenses from Leica, they may only be about $1,000 or so more than what you just quoted me.
But they do some funny things with f2.8 to f4 lenses.
I think their latest 24-70 and 70-200 has constant 2.8 now. The latest one.
Oh, does it?
They have upgraded them. Yeah.
Right. I'm just briefly checking to see whether I should have done Panasonic's Trinity lenses too. I had the notion that they didn't have all three, but I think I could be wrong about that. I'll have to look into that.
I just want to bring up this comment first, Image Maven.
Yeah.
Hello there. Okay, it's good to see you here. And so I think camera makers need to be open to third-party lenses because it makes the system more affordable to more people just getting into the system. I agree. I totally agree. And, you know, I did speak to Lawa last month at the APS-C exhibition in London. And we had a little chat about their strategy and talk about different mounts because Laowa do make camera lenses for different mounts. Obviously, their latest efforts always been into cine categories, looking at Super 35 and all the other big cine camera rigs. But they do offer normal mounts like they do offer RF, E, and also Sony Nikon Z, as well as some Micro Four Thirds. So we had a little bit of discussions there. They did tell me that some mounts cost them significant amount of money for licensing. On the other hand, because obviously being a Micro Four Thirds guy, I did ask about, what about Micro Four Thirds? Micro Four Thirds is cheap. by comparison, it's very cheap. Some mounts is like a six figures sum every year you have to pay just to get the license. So so you have to think about, that is the reason why some of the lenses are so expensive, because they have to make sure they sell enough to cover just the cost of the license itself.
Yeah, I did just briefly check for Lumix S lenses. I can't see a Panasonic ultra wide f2.8. There's an f4, but there's not an f2.8, so that's why I didn't do the Panasonic Trinity.
Yeah,
but I should have a look at Leica as well, because it's interesting that we assume Leica to be fabulously expensive, but actually, as you pointed out, the Leica mirrorless cameras and the lenses are more expensive, but they're not like a different order of magnitude at all. So that's quite interesting.
It is very interesting, because if you looking at the prime lenses are actually way more expensive compared, like for like saying, compared to other brands. Yeah. But zoom lenses, however, I don't think the zoom lenses are that particularly more like you said, the same magnitude.
I think it's a different thing, because the M mount lenses they've got the all the prestige of that. Of that brand, haven't they? So they are expensive. but the Leica S system is more practical. I think Leica does imagine that people are going to buy them and use them professionally. So they're kind of a bit more accessible. Only a bit more. But
only a bit more.
I'm just having a quick look now. Leica doesn't really do any S-mount Trinity lenses. They're all kind of, there's a 24-70 2.8, which is 3,200. So it's not wildly more expensive than the other brands.
No, because you mentioned earlier was the Nikon, or was it 2,800? So it's only a few £100 more. So it's not that much more.
So the Super Vario Elmarit 14-24 f2.8, that's 2.8.
Yeah.
So that's in the same ballpark, again a little bit more, but I don't know if there is a 70-200.
I'm pretty sure there is one, because I saw it before.
Oh, I can't find it.
Let's see if I can get one now.
We'll have to go on a hunt for that. Oh, there is, 70-200 f2.8, 3.5. So in all three cases, I'd say the difference is probably $300 or $400.
Yeah,
but that's between Canon / Nikon / Sony and Leica.
Yeah,
who would have thought that the difference would be that small?
Yeah.
So you are paying. We should all buy Leicas.
We should all buy Leicas now. Yes, yeah, we can finally afford Leicas.
Well, no, put it another way. If you can afford Canon, Sony, and Nikon, get a Leica.
But you know what? It does make me think. Let's say if I want to get a full frame system now, considering if I want to get a Trinity set, if I have to get a semi-pro to maybe a pro body, so like for Canon, I would probably get an R5 too, and then I get this set of lenses. You're talking about like 13 grand, roughly.
But
you know,
just imagine how much more you could charge if you turned up the Leica SL. An SL3, for example.
Exactly. So I can get an SL, get a
61
Trinity lenses.
megapixels. Yeah.
With the Leica batch on it, I charge double the money.
I mean, I'm not the Leica SL series is quite different to the Leica M's.
Yeah.
They are modern mirrorless cameras. They don't feel the same. They feel like a modern mirrorless camera. The images are just like those from any other mirrorless camera.
Yeah.
But the user interface and the finish are a class above. Whether you think that's worth the extra money or not, that's up to you. But it is interesting that the prices aren't so very different. Just looking at it now, they're a lot closer than I thought.
I guess for the very first time, I will say that Leica's a bargain.
Leica's a bargain compared to Leica. Not compared to anything else.
If you think about it, the M system, you get into rangefinder, the body itself is eight grand.
That's expensive. Yeah.
And then you get a prime, just any prime, you talk about minimum 2 grand, and so a lens and a body is about 10 grand to start with.
I don't suppose there are too many Leica M buyers who buy them to use. There are probably a few celebrity photographers who made their reputation from being Leica M shooters. I can think of a couple, but I think a lot of people buy them as collector items to put in a cabinet. Yep. But I may be wrong. There may be some Leica M fans in the comments who are going to roast me now for that. But I think the Leica SLs, they are there to be used.
Yeah, but it's interesting to see prices like from this perspective, and it made me realize quite a few things about general cost of photography these days, and that kind of maybe go back a little bit now, step back a couple of steps, just to think about how much joy can you get out of it, like when you're considering the financial pressure on acquiring new gear in let's say this year in 2026 and in the future, because things are only going to go more expensive, inflations and whatever that was happening around the world now. Like photography used to be quite simple, quite straightforward. You get a film camera, you can get nice lenses, but most camera more or less performing the same whether it's going to be a pro level body or not. Back in the film days, it has kind of similar sort of shutter speed, similar sort of AF system, maybe some slightly more sophisticated, maybe some can shoot 5 frames faster.
Just imagine the arguments we'd be having over film.
Yeah.
I'd be saying no, Kodachrome 64 easily beats Velvia 50, and other people say no, Velvia 50 is much better than Kodachrome. The Kodachrome 25 is rubbish. No, it isn't. It'd be all this, wouldn't it? But yeah, I think the thing that would bother me most about these Trinity lenses is that now Canon, Sony, and Nikon are on version 2. Yeah. So if I'd paid a great deal of money a few years ago for the version 1s, I'd be feeling pretty sick now, because I thought you took all that money and now you've made something better, and you want me to buy it all over again.
Yeah,
and that would bother me.
Funny you mentioned that. I know many of the Michael 4 users here listening right now are complaining, like OM or Lumix should upgrade their lenses. I mean, they've been around for like 10, 12, 13, in some cases 15 years.
You can't win.
But then you look at it, well, my lens is still current after 15 years. It hasn't been replaced.
Yeah. So
money well spent.
Exactly. You can't win, can you? Because if they replace somebody You'll have somebody like me saying, I'm really fed up because I bought the first one. And then you'll have other people who would be fed up if they don't, saying, well, it's about time they did. So I thank you, Chris Patmore, who says nothing was better than Kodachrome. Exactly. Kodachrome.
Shame that it no longer exists. Well, actually, most positive don't exist anymore.
No, I mean, I guess the thing with Kodachrome was waiting for like 2 or 3 weeks for the lab turnaround, and there's only a few places that could process it. And I know not everyone was a fan of the Kodachrome color rendition, but I thought it was really quite neutral. But other people don't seem to think so.
Potentially Kodak, whoever owns the Kodak imaging department or the business, is kind of lacking some sort of imagination. Imagine you do a digital kind of Kodak Chrome simulations exclusively for either sell it as a preset or just collaborate with a camera brand to make it a Kodak, instead of Fuji just having all the Fujifilm simulations now, have a Kodak version. Imagine that.
I tried a whole bunch. You can get there's I think you can get a Kodachrome simulation in On One Effects. I've seen one in Nick Color Effects. I've seen one in Exposure X7 when that was still a thing. None of them are quite right. They're just not.
Well,
it's like digital velvet is not like the film.
No. Even if you look at the Fujifilm simulations, they look nothing like the film. Like I know people may argue, but look, I shot quite a lot of Fuji stuff way back when I was starting with film photography. I wasn't really a big fan of Kodak at the time, so I shot a lot of Fuji stuff. So compared to all the photographs that I have in prints and in negative after scanning, they look nothing like the modern film simulations in modern digital Fuji cameras. Nothing like that. There are some tonalities, the green hue and things like that. You see that in them, but they look nothing like that, unfortunately. Yeah.
No, they don't. They're quite tame by comparison with the original. It's hard work shooting with these old slide films because you didn't have a lot of wiggle room. No. But when they worked beautifully. Yeah. So I like K64 and K25. Not so keen on Kodachrome 200, but I'm not sure anyone was particularly keen on Kodachrome 200.
I mean, Kodachrome is better in the slower film speed. They're much better. They're much better. Yeah.
I remember happy days spent using Kodachrome 25 with a polarizing filter. Every shot on the tripod. It took it down to about ASA 9 or something ridiculous.
Oh gosh.
Anyway.
But let's look at there is this article was going to mention about Pentax, because we haven't talked about Pentax or Pentax Trinity APS-C formats.
We'll have to look at the costs. I'll have a look at that afterwards. I've got a feeling that's going to be in the same general territory as Fujifilm.
I think so.
But we'll see. Interesting though. Interesting.
Yeah, I think the 16 to 50 wasn't that expensive, and the 5135 is not that expensive either. The one that is a little bit more, I think, is the 11 to 18. I think that's slightly more expensive, that one.
Possibly. I hope they've all got nice modern AF actuators. I don't know the 11 to 18. I've never used that. I think I've used the 16 to 50. But of course, the thing with Pentax lenses is the ones that don't have AF motors and are driven from the body. That's quite an old school experience.
Yeah,
if I can
they
put
never
that politely.
So this side to the screen, since you're Pentaxian, right? So Pentax camera quite well, and I know they have the APS-C Trinity. Do they ever re-release a modernized full frame Trinity? I can't remember now whether they did or did not.
I've got a feeling the K1 lenses were Tamrons. Pretty much. Yeah,
I don't think they re-released or refreshed a full-frame version of Trinity. Way back in the film days, they had the Trinity, but I think when they moved digital, because the first bunch
okay.
of the digital SLRs were all APS-C sensor. I mean, the full frame did come quite a bit later. And I think when they released the full frame camera, I don't think they ever reintroduced a full frame Trinity like the DA Star versions.
That's a good question. There was certainly a 2470, but I'm not sure about the others.
Yeah. They are quite rare if you find them. So Pentax is becoming a collector's item.
But what I can't quite understand about Pentax is why they persisted with APS-C when the K1 was really a rather good camera.
I love the ergonomic of that camera. You know, like it's. I mean, one good thing about Pentax.
Beast.
Yeah, but good thing about the Pentax DSLRs or any SLRs was their ergonomics. You know, the design, the body design is always very good.
Well,
always very good.
And even the K1 had IBIS.
Yeah. Yeah, they call it the shake reduction SR.
Shake reduction, yeah. And the old Astro Tracer thing for tracking astro shots with longer exposures without streaking. That's quite a clever thing.
Yeah.
I think the K1 also did automatic horizon leveling within certain limits. So it's a shame the K1's still not a thing. Really.
Yeah. You know, Pentax did a lot of good things, and it's weird to me that they never kind of like moved on.
Yeah.
I don't know whether it's resources or money. I'm not entirely sure.
I'm not sure the K1 sensor was really that cutting edge. I imagine it's the same one as was in the Nikon D800, D810.
Yeah.
So probably not great at high ISOs, but I mean, as a camera, that is the Pentax I would consider, I think.
Well, the K1.
More than the APS-C ones, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you can still get one. Use some of the vintage glass. You know, there's. And if you're feeling a bit nostalgia, you can always do that. Yeah.
I've got some Pentax M lenses.
Yeah. I don't know how much are they going for now. Secondhand K1. What would be the cost now on MPB?
Let's have a look. Talk amongst yourselves. I'll try not to get distracted by other things I might like to buy as well.
Anthony, Michael 430 equipment is more enough camera and lens for me, and it's more than plenty expensive without moving to full frame, which is almost double the cost.
Yeah.
Well, it is.
Even MFT is plenty,
Yeah. I mean, it's
none of them are cheap to get into.
No, I'm quite happy where I am at the moment. You know, liking all my MFT gear, and although I use others as well, but I only buy stuff that I really need. For MFT, I have everything just because of a fanboy, and but for other platforms, other formats like Fujifilm and full frame, I just literally get what I need. I may have review lenses, but you know, they are not really my workhorse lenses. Only a handful of them I would say that I will use it for work.
Well, now, Jimmy, if you're expressing serious interest, MPB has a K1 Mark II for £1,159.
Okay, that's not too bad.
Like new condition. Do you want to know how many shutter actuations?
2.
Close. 108. 108.
No, that's brand new.
So basically, it's been in a shop and nobody bought it. I would say that's the situation there.
You know what? If I want to get a DSLR, I would consider a Pentax. You know, and you know, it's great build quality. You know, it's just one of those.
It's got some clever modes, and it's got that unusual like scissor action rear screen that goes in all sorts of directions,
which
stays always, on the optical axis.
People always say it's a bit weird, that screen.
It is weird, but Pentax liked to demonstrate how strong it was by holding the camera with the LCD screen and waving it around. Scary.
Okay, $1,000. Okay, that's worth considering. Although you can get a ancient old Canon 5D for about a couple £100 now.
But that would have to be quite ancient, wouldn't it?
Yeah,
for it to be that kind of money. Probably the 20 megapixel sensor.
We always said, there's nothing wrong with DSLRs. I just think that they often underrated and overlooked because of all the modern techs that we now consider as standard or things that we should be expecting, like the IBIS, subject trackings and things like that. But depending on what sort of thing you do,
it always depends on what you shoot.
Yeah, if you shoot landscape, I don't think any sort of subject recognition would work anyway.
No.
So in that case, get a good old DSLRs that are rugged as hell. Get a nice sharp wide-angle lens, and you're good to go. And I think that they should still be around and still function. Actually, if you look at a lot of these DSLRs been functioning for 10 years, they will continue to function for the next 10.
Well, you can still buy the Nikon AFS, so that's the DSLR lens, the 70-200 f2.8 EFL ED VR, which I think is the latest one. That's just under $2,000. So it's 2/3 the price of the Z-mount version. I mean, the Z-mount version is going to be a much more advanced, more modern lens. But I'm just, calling out how much prices have changed.
Yeah. Looking at this Pentax K1 uses Sony sensor similar to the one used at the A10.
Yeah, I thought so. Yeah.
Which is a good sensor. It's not a
fine.
bad sensor.
It's fine.
Yeah.
I've got a D800 and it's all right. You wouldn't. I don't think resolves any more detailed than a modern 24 megapixel sensor, but it's still pretty good. You can still buy the Nikon 24-70 DSLR lens. The VR version is $1,700. That's being reduced at the moment. But
probably about £1,600 or so, roughly.
Yeah, something like that. I don't know what the wide angle was. What about that'd be 16-35? Do you think? I can't remember. No, that's
the Nikon 20 old DSLR lens, the 28 1.4 that I always had my eyes on, but they are about $2,000. I think it's so expensive that lens. Yeah.
So I think just checking those Nikon DSLR lens prices have gone up. So I think the lenses have got better, but we're certainly paying.
Yeah.
We're paying to get that better quality.
I'm just looking at the latest here. I think mine is a K10, a bit clunky with focusing. I have a K10.
It'll be the lens. If you got the Pentax 18-55, most of those are pretty noisy, pretty graunchy. Yeah. The camera's all right. It's the lenses.
Yeah, get a DA Star one. There's their version of the pro level lenses.
I could never figure out the naming on those Pentax lenses.
Yeah, the DA Star, the little asterisk stars on it signifies the pro level.
And what's the one that was designated a full frame lens? Was that
FA? I think.
FA.
I think it's FA. Okay. Yeah.
You know a lot about this, Jimmy. I'll have to get some more information from you about Pentax.
Well, I was one almost converted into Pentax, so I did a lot of research back then. Yes, when I was kind of in transition, when everybody's on this almost a level playing field, everyone's like having mostly APS-C sensor cameras. Yeah. So I did look at Pentax at one point, because I do find the camera body quite a bit better to hold compared to other cameras. And I do like some of the older lenses, so I was thinking about reusing them. And I did have a Pentax Super SE, so a film camera.
So you're a bit of a Pentax expert on the quiet then.
On the quiet.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I always want to get the Pentax LX, the SLR. And
didn't we all?
Yeah.
Here's an interesting blast from the past for you. Price wise, you can still buy the Nikon 200 to 500 f5.6. Full frame DSLR lens. How much do you think that would cost you today? How much would the 200 to 500 f5.6 mirrorless lens cost?
Mirrorless?
Yeah, if there were such a thing.
$5,000?
Because the DSLR one is the DSLR one's $1,200.
$1,200. Okay.
How far we've come, but mostly in price.
Okay.
It's depressing. I think I'm going to have to buy some of these.
Yeah. Well, this side too is seeing Jimmy come back to Pentax. Oh yeah.
It's fine, but even though I like DSLRs, I have to concede that mirrorless is better for some stuff. It's much better for video, and also in a curious way, it's much better with vintage lenses because it's a hell of a lot easier to focus with the mirrorless camera.
Yes.
And you can get adapters to fit any vintage lens
Yeah.
you like. This is another advantage of the Sony mount because you can get an adapter for anything.
Yeah.
Anything.
Yeah.
And the sensors seem quite tolerant as well of vintage lenses.
They are, yeah. And if you like to play with quirky stuff, and Michael Forthert obviously can adapt all the CCTV lenses, if you're into that kind of experimental photography.
I did just have a question you might be able to answer for me, Jimmy. If you're into the Canon RF system,
yep,
and Canon doesn't like you buying any lenses from third-party makers, what do you do if you want a cinema rig and you want lenses with focus gears and zoom gears? You would have to buy Canon's own cine lenses, wouldn't you?
Well, yes, you have to get the cine versions, and
then they're expensive.
They are very expensive.
You couldn't just go out and buy a Siri or a Laura.
No,
or an Mirrorless.
I think you can get manual focus cine lenses on RF mount quite easily.
Can you?
Just the autofocus is not available.
It's the okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's all right then.
Yes, yeah, and majority of the filmmakers use manual focus anyway. It's rarely you see them have any sort of autofocusing.
Yeah, it's just a different style of filmmaking, isn't it?
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
Let's see what is here. Oh, cool. I think you just helped me spend money.
Sorry. We always do this. When you think the itch has subsided, you have one of our live streams and it starts up again.
Well, for those who are listening right now, I do have my personal discount code if you are going to get OM system stuff. Link in the description. Not link, the code is in the description. So you can use that for 10% off. And obviously, there will be some exclusions. If they're brand new gear, for instance, it may not work. But if it has a cashback, like I think what they have right now, because you are claiming the cashback after you pay full price. So you can actually use my discount code, get 10% off, and then claim the cashback afterwards, so extra saving.
I was just going to ask you about this, actually. Are you quite sure that using the code doesn't disqualify you from cashback?
No.
So they won't come back and say you used a code, you can't have cashback?
No, it doesn't.
Okay,
no.
Good. Phew.
Good. Good to know.
Oh, definitely, because own system, like most camera makers that do a cashback deal, which is the thing in the UK. I don't think it's done anywhere else. They're quite stringent about the documentation they require.
Yeah, and just so you know, if you're listening from Europe, anywhere in Europe, my code does work in Europe as well. And then because apparently I did check my account, someone did use my code in Europe. So,
okay, good.
So there are some transactions going on there. So hopefully it help you save a little bit more, if not a lot more, and every little helps.
Wow. Indeed it does. Do you know, I'm depressing myself now looking at Nikon F-mount lenses and what they cost.
Yeah.
Because it's not very much, even when you buy new. So
are you tempted now?
Well, it's just bothering me now, because have you ever used any Irix lenses? I mean, they're nicely made. I don't think I've ever tested any
which one?
Irix, the Swiss.
Oh, no,
Irix,
I have not.
Irix.
No, yeah, I have not. I've seen them, but I have not tried them.
So you can get an Irix 21mm f1.4.
Yeah.
How much do you think that would cost?
About $3,000, I think. Is it?
It's £420.
Is that it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Sorry,
all
$420.
$420.
Oh, it's horrifying. It's horrifying. I'm glad I've still got my DSLR now.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, right.
And you know how much fast primes are for mirrorless? Super telephotos, I mean. That's
Super
what I meant to say.
telephotos. Well, like
Yeah.
those 500 or 300 lens.
So 400 f2.8.
Yep.
What would that cost? Let's see what the Nikon Z one is, because I know what the SLR one
Well,
is.
the 2.8 would be probably over 10 grand. Has to be 400 f 2.8.
Well, B&H has the SLR one for a little under 8.
Right. Okay.
So,
But
so I'm not suggesting we all rush out and buy DSLRs and all DSLR lenses, but I think what's interesting to me is how the switch to mirrorless brought a big jump in lens prices
yeah.
at the high end, and we didn't really notice because everything was so much better with mirrorless. We didn't notice that, but it is a thing. The costs have gone up.
Yeah. So get yourself a DSLR and then save us some money.
Well, you can. It's quite hard going back, I would say. If you're used to the convenience of mirrorless, a DSLR does take a little getting used to again. And undoubtedly, they are worse at some stuff than mirrorless cameras.
Well, I have to say, and DSLR is making a little bit of a comeback, and especially now with everyone trying to going retro, and a lot of young photographers now associating DSLRs are retro, so they are kind of having a little bit uptick in terms of sales. Almost exclusive in used market, not so much about new market, because I don't think you can get a lot of new ones that it will fit in your budget. Because I think the only new DSLR that's available now, apart from Canon, still have a few showing, but Nikon only sell the DSLR in the top sections, and which is quite expensive. Sony doesn't have any.
I think you can still get the D850 and the D780, but I think you can still get the APS-C D7500 in some places.
Yeah,
that's not really a favorite for me.
No, but they're quite expensive.
Yeah.
I think the D850, I think it's about £1,800 still.
It goes up and down. It's worth looking out for deals, because there's some big price fluctuations with those cameras. They can go up and they can come down, and they don't tend to the retailers don't tend to flag those up because they're not like headline cameras. It's worth keeping an eye on prices.
Interesting.
But yeah, I've seen the D850 at well under £2,000 in the UK. And I've seen the D780 at about 1,300, but it's up again now. But
but you know what? I'll get that K1 for 1,100 quid.
Well, yeah. It is tempting, isn't it? But then you've got to get some lenses too. Gonna have to shop around a bit, but
just get some old banger 51.8 or something like that. I'll just mount it on.
Yeah, I do like the K1 and the K1 Mark II. I think nobody else ever did sensor shift stabilization in a DSLR. The only awkward thing about that is, of course, you don't see it in the viewfinder. You have to trust the stabilizer to work, because in the viewfinder, it's all as wobbly as hell, because you can't stabilize the viewfinder.
And you still have to adjust if you've been shooting like mirrorless exclusively for the last 10 years. Going back to DSLR is going to be a cultural shock. Looking through an optical viewfinder is not what you see, what you get. You have to completely trust your metering system and everything.
It kind of is, but I think with an optical viewfinder, the shift from what you see with the naked eye to what you see in the camera viewfinder, it's the same thing. Whereas with an EVF, you're going from real world to digital just by putting the camera to your eye. It's a question of which you prefer and which seems most natural. But even with the DSLR, if you have the auto review switched on, you see what the camera captured straight away as soon as you're taking a shot anyway. So I always thought that was kind of overstated, really. But it is a shock going back to DSLRs. I suppose one of the shocks is, how big is this thing? A nice shock is, I've been out all day, why isn't it flat? Why is it still showing 3/4 full? What's all that about?
I mean, yeah, I mean, I think that one thing that I don't like about EVF, as much as I kind of love them, it's kind of like a love-hate relationship, is that in particular that I recently discovered on my Fujifilm X-H2S EVF.
Yeah.
It's a great EVF, high resolution, 5.6 million pixels, a really highly detailed EVF. But I think the contrast level is set too high by default.
I think they are, yeah.
And which means that I don't know how much of the shadow detail I'm still getting, when we're looking through it. It really bugged me quite a lot.
I'm glad you said that, because that's always bothered me about EVFs. That you don't see detail in the shadows that will be there in the image.
Yep.
The contrast is too high. They're nice and punchy to look at, but you can't judge.
No.
What shadow detail you're going to get just from the EVF. And quite often you can use exposure compensation to fix things that don't need fixing.
No, exactly.
So
exactly.
That is quite annoying.
Yeah, I mean, I think so far, like regardless of resolution, just by representations and contrast level, and I think OM Viewfinder is not too bad, and I would say that Nikon is okay, depending on which viewfinder. Some viewfinders are better than the others. It's kind of inconsistent. But I think OM system tends to use the same viewfinder across all bodies, so there's no differences there.
You can get a choice over the viewfinder rendering as well, can't you, between natural looking and exposure representation. I think my Canon has that.
You can
I've not
adjust
seen much difference really.
Yeah, no, you can adjust a lot of stuff on the EVF. You can adjust the actual hue and shades or brightness and things as well if you really want to. But like, I tend not to mess up with that, because first of all, I don't know how accurate the EVF is anyway.
No,
there's no way for me to measure it. So rather than messing it around, I just leave it.
Well, I think this is the trouble with EVFs, that as you pointed out, they're way too contrasty. They don't give you a proper. You can use them for a kind of overall exposure assessment, but don't trust them to show you shadow detail or even highlight detail accurately.
No.
So in some ways, an optical viewfinder on a DSLR is kind of better, because it's not kidding you. It's not telling you anything. So it's not leading you up the garden path either. You just have to trust the sensor and not the viewfinder.
Yeah.
And I think that's true with EVFs.
But that's what we used to do, right? We used to just trust it, and if you look at the metering, and just trust the meters to be accurate, and just shoot it with it. And maybe over time, you develop the experience and knowledge about your own camera, and you know that when to compensate the exposure if you really need to.
But the EVF and even the LCD and playback mode will never show you what's in the RAW file. They're just showing you a quick and dirty JPEG. And well, they are really, aren't they? That's all they're doing. And the EVF in particular is just a screen. You're not really seeing how the image will appear when you look at the file on your computer. You're just seeing a quick representation of the rather contrasty little screen.
Yeah.
It's not helpful.
Angular is quite interesting here. I actually prefer to set my OM camera to SOVF for macro. So it's a simulated OVF, which means that when you change setting, the exposure through the EVF doesn't change, so you don't see what you get basically. It's simulating the actual outside world, so to speak. So when it's dim, so there's no boost in the EVF to allow you to see in the dark, for instance. I did that at the beginning, and when I first switched to mirrorless, and because I wasn't quite sure how it works, the whole thing, and it's still learning at the time, so I just switched the SOVF on, because that's how I used to see things through the SLR. But later I discovered the SOVF sometimes is a little bit weird to me in terms of the actual how I put it, the shadings and also the color temperature. It's messed up a little bit. So maybe in your case, maybe modern mirrorless cameras is slightly improved now. But I remember the first, which one was that one? I think it was the EM5, the very first one. When I switched the SOVF on, the color's a bit weird always. Only when I switched it back to normal EVF, and things turned back to normal. So yeah, that is always a bit weird for me, especially trying to see things in the dark. You always see very noisy things, so as well. So it's
I think
kind of weird.
I think this is what mirrorless cameras are really good at in low light, because trying to do night shots on the DSLR is not a whole lot of phones. You can't do a damn thing. But with a mirrorless camera, you've got auto gain on the LCD display that lets you compose shots, not as quite as if it's daylight, but it's so much easier to compose shots in darkness with a mirrorless camera. So have to admit that. And of course, with the DSLR, you won't see any effects of exposure compensation in the viewfinder. So you do have to figure it out the hard way. But I still think the fact that you get instant replay, even with the DSLR, takes away a lot of the complaints about what you see is not what you get, because you see it a half second later anyway, so you can always reshoot it if it's not right.
Yeah, and this side to our screen's comment is quite interesting, right? And this is amazing that old photography was in focus, exposed correctly and sharp without all the perks of the new cameras. Well, you know what that is? That means that you know how to take a photograph.
Well, you adapt to the tools you're using, don't you?
Yeah.
I mean, when we shot with film, we couldn't check anything. We had to get it right. Sometimes didn't get it right. But you just adapt to whatever tools.
Joking aside, I think the new perks, so you call it, the like eye trackings and face tracking, it does help, especially if you do open up the aperture and shallow depth of field photography, for instance, and they do really help quite a bit. And even back in the film days, I used to do a lot of what I call the off-center composition. So I place my subject on the edges of the frame. If you're not perpendicular, well, even if you're perpendicular to them, there is always depending on whether you have a flat focal plane. Some lenses have a curve, so that means that if you place a subject on the side, it may not actually focus correctly, and you might find it a little bit off. So
surprising number of lenses do have field curvature, so that unless you do place the focus point on the subject off center, it's not going to be quite right. Because if you do the focus and recompose thing, I've done this a few times, the focus will shift because the lens has a certain amount of field curvature. So it does kind of help to move the focus points and not reframe. But
and now with the facial recognitions, or it does help in that way, because you can place your subject anywhere in a frame now.
You can do.
And you can get pretty much good results. I mean, unless you've got some edge softness on your lens, and otherwise you're pretty good to go.
I think so. Yeah. But can I just do a slight diversion, since we're talking about prices?
Yep, go on then.
Can I talk about compact cameras and their resurgence?
Oh, you're not opening another can of worms.
I am. A can of worms. Maybe even a can of serpents. Because I am slightly dismayed by all the like 5 and 10-year-old cameras. Where compact cameras undergoing a resurgence today at what seemed to me to be ridiculous prices.
Oh dear. I'm bracing for impact now. Go on.
Oh,
Go
really?
on, Rod.
Really? Is this going to be controversial?
I don't know. Shock me.
Shock you. Right. I have to go into a different application here, because this particular post is scheduled for a bit later. So it hasn't gone live yet.
My Pixie has arrived.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh, perhaps, do you want to get that out instead then, or are you going to save that for another time?
It's in my house now. I just saw the delivery note on my screen. So.
Okay. Right. Very, very briefly then, who likes the Canon PowerShot G7X Mark III? Anyone remember that camera?
Is that the one with the larger sensor one?
It's got 1-inch sensor. It's got no EVF, but it's got a tilting screen, and it shoots 4K, and it's been quite popular as a kind of compact vlogging camera. But does anyone know how much? Well, I suppose anyone can look it up even as we speak. But would anyone be surprised to learn that camera now costs $879.
Jesus.
Yeah, it seems a lot to me. I don't remember it ever being that much when it was launched.
That's the size of this. I mean, that's the price of this.
Yeah, so it makes me think, why would you buy something like that when you can buy a modern little vlogging mirrorless camera for a similar sort of money? Because your XM5 was about that price, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And that's an interchangeable lens camera with an APS-C sensor.
And I got this
your orange lens.
I got this TT Artisan 35 1.8 AF lens. All in with the whole thing here, including the camera body, is about £850, I think, roughly.
So my question is, why are these cameras, which aren't new and aren't amazing, so expensive? So Charkel has just made a remark here. He kind of wants an RX107. Yeah, decent camera. $1,800 in the States now. They were never that much at the start, were they?
This is Mark 5.
Yeah,
the best one. I think personally, this is the best one.
The shorter zoom,
zoom with the brighter aperture. I think this is the better one.
Yeah,
and then I paid this. I think it's 580 or 620. I can't remember now. Roughly, there's £600 thereabout, brand new, and now it's 1,800. You're joking?
Yeah, but no, that's a different camera, Jimmy. This is Mark 7.
Right.
And you also
But Mark 7's rubbish.
So it's not rubbish. It's got a longer zoom. It's got a longer zoom. Of course,
I got an EVF. Got a Zeiss T-Star coating. You know, same thing.
Yeah. Of course, yeah.
I love that.
All right. I've got one more example for you.
And I got a flash.
Sorry, I'm finished.
I got a tiny little flash.
You get all that with the Mark 7 and a longer zoom. It's only $1,800. But surely it was never $1,800 when it was launched. I can't remember it being that much.
I stopped Dakar. You know, you always pay more for the lens, right? You know, like this is an f2 lens I've got there.
Yeah, I guess. I've got one more example for you. Does anyone remember the Panasonic ZS90 or 90? It's the 99 now. So this was just like a little point-and-shoot camera, big zoom, but pocket-sized, with a 1/2.3-inch sensor, like all these big zoom cameras had. That is now being sold by Panasonic for, where's it gone? $698.
No way, 600.
Yes,
Gee, my god, no.
It's a 20 megapixel 1/2.3-inch sensor, so it's a Trinity sensor. It's got a 30 times zoom, but still $697 for a long zoom point and shoot compact.
The world has gone. The world's gone crazy. I can't remember it
costing that much when it's new.
This is why these $50 cameras selling like hotcakes.
I'm not even gonna talk about that. But you know, Jimmy, you know that is just junk. You know it is. Come on.
But it's $50. You don't have to pay 100 times more than that.
Yeah, but I've got a bin full of junk in the kitchen. It's cost me nothing. You want to pay $50 for something that's going to go straight to the recycling.
Jeez.
You're gonna have to do a review, Jimmy. You're gonna have to do a special talk with some samples.
I'm glad to see some sample. I will show you that sample.
And then I can provide some samples I shot with the Kodak Pixpro C1, which is only £80, $100, and is a Kodak. So we can have a battle, can't we?
Yes.
Budget battle.
Battle.
Not which one is best, which one is worst.
The worst ever digital camera in the world. You know what? Just a bit of a side news. I know we're sidetracking a little bit now, but we might as well. We're kind of towards the end of our today's chat now. Does anybody know in CP Plus in Japan just now, Nikon has announced a firmware update for their Nikon ZF cameras. I'm not going to upgrade it for a couple of reasons. One, I'm not sure about whether that will break all my field chock lenses, and second, is adding a feature that I think is totally ridiculous, but people may see it as a quirk. They added a timestamp on the JPEGs, just like the old digital point and shoot camera. You know, this little date on the bottom right corner.
I know.
They added that features in the latest firmware.
It off, can't you?
You can
take
yeah.
it off.
Yeah, but it's an option that allows you to do that now.
I mean, you can understand it for film because there's no way to timestamp a negative without that. But with digital, every image is timestamped in the EXIF data. So, it's just retro madness. But wouldn't it be strange if that firmware update stopped your Viltrox lenses working? Wouldn't that be a coincidence in the current situation?
That's exactly why I don't want to risk it.
Of course, it would be a coincidence. It couldn't be anything else. But
so this is one main reason that I'm not going to upgrade any new firmware for now until the court case is clear. So yeah, anything they can release now, I'm not going to touch.
I think you're wise. But I've got one more camera I would mention. Do you remember that back in the day, Panasonic made two types of bridge camera? You would have the sort with the ridiculously long zoom with the tiny sensor, but then you also had the FZ1000 and 2000, which had a 1-inch sensor, a bit like the Sony RX10, if anyone remembers that.
Yes, I remember that. Yeah, that was expensive, the RX10. It was like over $1,000 at the time. It would be probably, if they resell it today, probably like $2,500.
I'm not sure if you can still get it. It got up to version 4. So anyway, Panasonic made a not very good bridge camera with a tiny sensor but a big zoom.
Yeah. And
a rather good bridge camera with a 1-inch sensor. Shorter zoom, but much better camera. Which one did they bring back? You know what the answer is.
The worst one, right? Has to be the worst one.
The worst one. So you can now get the Lumix FZ80D again. Yep. For the modest sum of $498. With his Tichy sensor and his 60 times optical zoom. Now, I don't know if anyone here has ever used a bridge camera with that kind of zoom range and ever tried taking a picture at full zoom.
It's horrible.
I tried it with this particular Panasonic, and it's handheld. It's just not possible. You can't keep the subject in a frame at all at that focal range. Wait, you can, but it's moving around all the time. The stabilization does its best, but it's like a drift and a jump, and it's this kind of movement. And the stabilization can't really cope with that kind of magnification. On top of which, at full zoom, the lens isn't good. It's not good. So the only way to use that camera is really on a tripod and accept that the images aren't going to be great. So, yeah,
and what's the point?
Annoying.
And what's the point?
That's annoying. They bring back the worst one because it's cheaper to make.
Oh gosh,
that is disappointing.
Gosh. You know, I never understand these ultra long zoom compacts anyway. You know, the bridge cameras, and I just think a lot of the cases is more of a marketing shout out than actually being a usable feature for a photographer.
And the funny thing is, they're quite compact when they're not switched on.
Yep.
But if you zoom in fully, especially with that Panasonic ZS99, which has got 30 times zoom in a compact body.
Yeah,
it's like it's worse than Pinocchio. How far that lens comes out?
Because it's lying. It's lying.
Yeah, it's
lying to you that I got the best image quality.
No, you've got the longest zoom in every sense.
Oh no!
So yeah,
that's horrible.
That Panasonic has annoyed me by bringing back. It's great that they're relaunching cameras, but why couldn't they relaunch the best ones not the worst.
You know what?
ones.
Yeah, if with all this compact craze as this ties to a screen that mentioned earlier, this everything's becoming crazy now. But you can actually get some decent point and shoot for relatively okay money. You know, for instance, like the OM system TG7 is a little bit long in the tooth, but it's still a current model.
Do you know how much that is?
Well, in the UK they're having cashback deal.
But if you live in the US, the TG7 is
$500.
$550.
Yeah, but it's not far off than the option that you mentioned. It's a much better camera though.
Or full price is $650.
Yeah, but it's much better camera than any of the options you just mentioned.
I think you're very loyal. I think you're very loyal. It's a different type of camera. I think that's a lot. It's a lot for a point and shoot, rugged or not.
Yeah, you know, I love taking it even as a spare camera in my pockets. Well, it is a pocketable camera, and it does offer a lot of things for the money. You know, it has as atmospheric sensors. It has a compass. Even if you don't use it as a camera, you can use a digital compass. and it shoots raw. You know, and in the wide angle side, it's actually pretty decent. Only when you punch into the telly end, it gets a little bit soft. But other than that, it's actually a pretty decent camera.
It sound like excuses to me, Jimmy. It's only 12 million pixels, 12 megapixels.
What do you need? It's all Facebook. Zoom. It's all Facebook. You don't need more than that.
So you're saying it's only a full-time zoom and it's still not that great at 4 times? You're not selling it to me. You're not selling it to me.
It's got an f2 aperture.
But I think this is just what's happening in the compact camera market. We're paying silly money for 5 or 10-year-old cameras that used to cost a lot less just because it's a craze. I can't understand it. You're better off buying a little mirrorless camera. So get a Nikon Z30, they're cheap. Get a Fuji X-M5, they're good value. Get an EM10 Mark IV while you still can. Don't know how much longer that's going to be around. They're good value. Just get a little mirrorless camera. Don't get a compact.
Yeah. Well, maybe
just my 2 pence.
It is most certainly. I mean, I think that, you know, if you're a wise photographer, you know, if you are the type who are focused on photography, not so much about fashion or trend, and your brain will tell you that, you know, for the same money you can get some really decent kit new, or if you don't mind getting used, you can get much better gear used, and for the same money, you know, for like £800, £1,000, for instance, for one of these hyped up compact cameras, you can easily get a full kit in used market that's very decent with a couple of nice lenses, a rugged body, for instance, and it's certainly doable. You know, I'm not sure for the UK, and I may leak the latest OM system promotion, but you may soon find out if it's not already announced. Is that they are selling the OM5, not Mark II, the original OM5,
saw that
with the 12 to 45 f4 Pro and the 40 to 150 f4 Pro as a kit for just over £1,000. You're basically getting the camera free. And that surely is much better than any of the options you just mentioned.
I've just checked the PowerShot G7X3. Is from 2019, so nearly 7 years ago.
Cool.
And was launched at $750. So 7 years later, it's $850. 7 years is a long time in camera technology, isn't it?
It certainly is. It certainly is.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I just want to just highlight maybe one more comment. I think, and from Anthony, about OM systems should do a kind of like a, you know, street cam, you know, maybe slightly more smaller form factor in a more compact form.
Well,
I mean, don't we all like that? I think.
You know what I'm going to say?
Go on.
You can't buy them in the States. It's Pen EP7. Just sell it in the States.
Yeah.
That's what it's a slightly bulkier GR.
Or maybe the EPL 10
with interchangeable lenses. Yeah. Any of those. the EP7 and the other pens are great street cameras. They really are. Just they're never really marketed in that way.
No, I mean,
Shame.
and the last one here, Aquila, they're saying that deal is incredible. It is incredible. You know, like imagine that you're basically getting the OM5 free of charge. You know, no matter how you look at it. You know, the 2 pro lenses and the 40-150 is an incredible travel zoom lens. You know, the build quality, the image quality is stunning, and the 12-45 f4 Pro is tiny. If you want something small to travel with, it's a great lens. It's a really great lens. And
just so happens I have it here.
Yeah, it's not how small it is.
It's a 24-90.
That's amazing.
And it's a good lens too. It's only an f4, but you know, it's not the end of the world.
If you travel, you don't really need faster than that, to be quite honest. Most of the time I stop down, and to be honest, with the stabilization, shoot wide open f4 is still doable, very doable. You don't really need 2.8, to be honest.
And it's quite useful to have the depth of field in some ways. I mean, you can't go any wider than f4, but if you're shooting interiors with a lot of foreground and background depth, you can't really use wider apertures anyway. Alternatively, you just travel with that and take a little
prime
12 f2 or 17 f2 if you need it.
Or the 17 1.8 or 25 1.8.
Sorry, you're right. I meant that.
Yeah, one of those small prime, and you basically cover everything, every eventuality. You don't really need more than that. I mean, unless you got some very specific things going. That's exactly actually what my travel kit is. Most of the time when I travel, I have my OM3 with me. I have the 2 f4 zooms and a prime, and that's what I travel with. And I have a very small camera bag. That's nice and easy. I don't complicate things when I go travel.
No, quite. Yeah. Sometimes it's better to have fewer decisions. So that you know if in one situation you need this, in that situation you need that, and you're not constantly confusing yourself with choices.
Yeah, and Chris actually said that I was so tempted by that deal.
Yeah. Already have too much gear.
Well, think about that. I mean, if you don't have any of those 2 lenses, you can always buy this deal and sell the OM5 later on.
There's nothing wrong with the OM5. The changes to the OM5 2 are relatively minor. I was happy with the EM5 for a very long time, and I probably still would be again today. So, it's a good deal. It's a good deal.
Or just get the lenses and sell the camera later on. I mean, if you like the OM5, keep that as well. For that price, I think it's a bargain.
Chuck L says, I think the EP7 is the only pen with a 20 megapixel sensor, apart from the Pen F. But yes, the only little pen with 20 megapixels, and I can't demonstrate it in this live stream, but the autofocus is just, especially if you use touch shutter on the rear screen, it is as close to instantaneous as any camera can get. So you can just hold it, tap, and you've got the shot, no delay, perfectly focused. It is a very fast little camera.
Definitely. And I guess this is,
I've got quite worked up now.
I know, and I can tell you're very enthusiastic and animated.
Yeah.
But I think it's reaching our usual 2 hours mark now. I think this is time to wrap up our today's chat. I know that towards the end we got sidetracked a little bit, but it's a good discussion. I think it's quite an interesting thing. Certainly very educational to learn about all these expensive Trinity lenses at the beginning. It's
disappointing.
It is. I mean, it makes me think twice, if I ever going to go back to full frame or look in the full frame, would I really still want to go for the native Trinity lenses because they cost so much money, while for me anyway, not gaining that much in terms of return. And, okay, I'm a professional. Technically, I really want to demand the professional equipment to withstand some sort of bangs and things like that, bangs and bumps. But, I mean, I've been using third-party lenses, slightly cheaper versions of the lenses for my jobs nowadays. I mean, as long as they're weather sealed, and I don't see much problem with them.
Well, the other thing is, do you want to spend $8,000 on full-frame Trinity lenses, and then 5 years from now they launch
exactly, that's another thing.
Version 3. You know that version 2 we sold you? turns out that was rubbish. This is what you want.
and if you want to sell your Trinity lenses, you're probably going to get a third of the money back.
Because the new ones are out. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you will only be able to afford one new lens, not three of them.
If you're going to pay all this money, make sure you get full use out of this stuff from day one, because it will depreciate.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, like no matter how people say that, you know, like certain things are investment in photography. Only a very handful of collector items are. Most of the cases they depreciate like nothing.
It's like buying a car.
Yeah, that's just why when I come to buy camera gear, I make sure that I can make the money back for my jobs. You know, if it doesn't make any money back, and I don't usually want to put any money on it.
And it's another reason to buy the gear you need today, not the gear you think you might need tomorrow, because by the time you get to tomorrow, the gear you bought isn't worth much.
No.
Or isn't worth as much. So get what you need today and make sure you get full use out of it from day one.
Yeah.
That's my advice.
Absolutely. The wise rod.
Not that wise.
The wise rod.
If I was that wise, I'd have done all that stuff instead of just talking about it.
But it's cool. It's cool. So it's interesting talk today, definitely. And no doubt we're going to think of another topic, but I'm more like thinking that next week we may not our talk may not happen. So for those who are tuning in and listening, only because TPS finishes on Tuesday, so I may not have time to recoup everything, because I have some of my professional shoots lined up straight after TPS. So next week I'm actually have a full week of photo shoots, so I may not actually have time to do everything, but we will be back the week after, that's for sure. And so next week we may or may not, just stay tuned for my announcement to see whether I do have time to conduct another live chat next week. But for those who will be turning up at TPS this week, and Rod and I will be there, so we'll be walking around the show, talking to different people, and doing a little bit of YouTubing here and there, and we may even do some sort of coverage of the show. So yes, do look out for us. If you do have anything specific that you would like us to talk about or like us to find at the photography show, and please do drop some comment down below. We're going to pick it up and see if we can find them in the photography show, and let you know. But once again, a little bit of promotions there, and for those who are going to TPS, there will be some exclusive show deals. I'm pretty sure all brands will do that, but I know OM System are going to have some very specific deals only at TPS. So if you are about to upgrade or maybe about to get something, turn up at the OM stand. And look at the details over them. And I know they're doing something, but I don't know the exact details yet. So let's wait and see. Okay. Cool. So anyway, thank you very much for tuning in. And once again, and I will speak to you all next time. Okay. Yeah. I'll see you later.
Bye, everyone.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye now. Bye.